Welcome to the Vault Unlocked, where I take a deep dive into money topics that no one wants to talk about. And I tell you who does want to talk about this topic: the rich. The rich, the wealthy, the affluent, the generational passer downers. Is that even a word? We are talking about net worth. What the hell is it? Why should I care? How do I track it? What does it mean? This is, do you know, like at school where you might have had like core subjects like maths, English, science, the things that they make you do. And then you can kind of pick fun ones like PE or food tech or drama, whatever is like fun for you. This is a compulsory financial core module. You have to listen to this podcast. This is a rule. I'm not giving you a pass out, and it's for a very, very good reason, or lots of good reasons. When we started financial, tracking your net worth was one of the first things that we got people to do when they had the spreadsheets, like long before the app, because working class and middle class people, and especially women, are kind of so caught up in the here and now. Sometimes that's driven by circumstance. They have to think of the here and now. It is like, can I put food on the table? Do I have enough money in my bank to make payday? I'm one emergency away from having a nightmare. I need to leave this relationship and I don't have anything else. So I understand why so many of us are driven by this like short-termism. But some of us, it's just habit, and it's upbringing and it's environment, and it's because we're not taught to think about the long term, and we're not taught to think about the trajectory of our money. Like, where's it heading? At what pace? Like, we're not taught that. So it's very normal. I think the furthest long-term thing that someone might think of is like, I'm saving for a house. And that might be the biggest thing that someone saves for. And so they're tracking that over a period of time, but it's got a defined period, hasn't it? And then when you buy that house, you've got it. And it's like, right, okay, done. Most of us don't really like thinking about retirement, even those of you listening to this in retirement, because I know we've got an amazing retiree community. I'm sure in your head you feel 21 and I'm not this retiree. How did I get here? So today I want us to try and think about the long term. Where are we going? What are we doing? Why are we doing it? And it all comes together in a few different pieces. If you think about some of the unlocks that we've done so far, we've talked about the budget and how the budget works with financial. And we've tricked you a little bit really into thinking that it's about the month. It's about that month. And we've even teased it out a little bit and talked about the fact that it extends into the year. So building up your sinking funds and building that pot of money for the things that you're going to need in the next 12 months. But if you think about what we say about the excess, what are you meant to do with your excess? You're meant to put it towards things that grow. And what we mean by that is you're meant to put it towards things that grow your net worth. So it is a trick. We're being transparent with it, but I'll guarantee you, if you do this method, you will forget about this trick and you'll just crack on. And it's our job to get you using a money methodology, a way of managing your money that fits the now, it fits the next week and next month, and it fits like years into the future. And that's the goal here. And the net worth tracker and the concept of tracking your net worth and focusing on your net worth once in a while will help you do that. It really will. By the end of this episode, you are going to know what the hell a net worth is, never mind yours, just what is it, why it matters, and how to start tracking it. This is about progress, not perfection. So do not feel overwhelmed. Please think I'm like holding your hand as we're going through this. This is not meant to be overwhelming. Like I've said before, I'm sat in my kitchen on my couch. I've got no socks on, for God's sakes. We are friends and we're safe. And this is not too formal and it's not out of your world. I want to bring net worth to your world. I want to bring it to your dining table with your partner or around the coffee table with your friends. You don't actually have to say how much you have if you don't want to share it with people, but the concept of talking about the A word, assets, and things like that, like it's gonna feel more normal. But do not feel overwhelmed. If you think this is not in my realm, this is not in my vocabulary, it soon will be. And it doesn't need to be like super full of jargon and complicated investment terms. We're not going to get there. And actually, just a note on that, it did come to my mind then. Thank you to the lots of you that have messaged in and said, can Laura do a Vault Unlocked about investing? And we've got some exciting news on that. So we, especially the team and I, have been sat there thinking, like, how do we bring investing in when there was so many basics we had to do first, and we wanted to ease people in. And again, if you like come to this pod on this episode, I really would recommend like head back down the unlocks, as well as obviously the dilemma ones. But we want to talk about foundations, about budgeting, about sinking funds, about how to save, about why debt's like a pain in the ass. We need to talk about those because so many people jump straight to investing and either play around at it with like a little bit of money here and there, or they feel overwhelmed because it's like not built on like secure foundations of financial knowledge, or they quite frankly don't have the excess cash to put into investments. And so what we try and do is do the work up front to help you get into a place where your excess in your financial budget is big enough that you have to start deploying it into investments. And those are the rules. Like, this is the financial playbook. Survive, build, grow. You have to get out of survive, and you have to get out of survive as quickly as possible. Then we'll get you in build. And listen, we'll let you take your time there, because if you're saving for your dream home, if you're saving up for a really big emergency fund, if your income's not that high, if you're a solo financialer, lots of reasons why we'll let you kind of hang around and build a little bit. You should already be doing like your minimum pension contributions and copying that if you're self-employed. That's super important. We've talked about that quite a bit. But then we're getting you to grow, and you have to have an excess cash amount every month that's going into things that grow your net worth. So we're going to come on to investing in quite a big way in the next few weeks. I'm going to ease you in and walk with you and share a bit of my journey, share where you can start, loads of stuff. We've got so many ideas that quite frankly, like, we're trying to work out in what order we do them and how we parcel it up. But net worth today is where we start. So we're going to jump in with, what the hell is a net worth? At its core, your net worth is what you own minus what you owe. So it's your assets minus your liabilities. So many money conversations are around like the budget metrics and the budget numbers. So what's your income? What's my salary? What do we earn? What are our expenses? Net worth is this bigger picture where you check in once a month, you pick a date for you, and you go into the app and you update your net worth. And it's the reflection of the good behaviors, the good money behaviors that you have been putting in throughout the month. And every month is, say if you do monthly paydays at least, but every month when you do your net worth, because you do that once a month, you should see progress. And, you know, sometimes it goes up and sometimes it goes down. It does depend on what's happened that particular month, and we'll go into that shortly. But overall, over time, if you are implementing the financial behaviors, if you are implementing the financial methodology, that net worth's going up and up and up. And you can do a graph in the app. I've got like 2-3 years worth of net worth trackers tracking. It looks like an upwards roller coaster. You know, there's ups and there's downs, but if you do like the past 3 months, you get like, 3 metrics. If you all time, it looks like up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. It looks just like, ironically, the stock market, when you see these over time graphs and you see that over time it goes up. It's the same thing with your net worth. If you have been doing the work that we do here, if you've been applying it properly, you'll see that bad boy go up. It's a fascinating number, your net worth, because it's private. People don't know it. So when you think about what wealth looks like and what being rich looks like, you can definitely make certain assumptions. Do people have nice big houses? Do they go on lots of holidays? Do they have nice cars? Do they dress well? Do they have amazing skin? Like all these, money can buy us lots of things that are outward looking, that are physical. And so you can make a pretty safe assumption that people that look a certain way, dress a certain way, live in a certain place, probably have money. But it's not always the case. The moderate house on your street with the moderate 10-year-old cars and the plain looking individuals may well be millionaires. And the house on the street with the financed cars and the nice holidays and the latest designer gear may not have much at all. They may have a lot of debt. They may have a lot of finance. They may have fallen victim to keeping it with the Joneses. And I think I make that observation because it's very normal. That is so normal. And there's no shade for living our lives in particular ways. What we don't know is the relative stress that someone may be going through, though. So they may appear, this like couple, to have it all together. Apart from any health or work or physical issues they may have going on, they may have money issues going on. They may feel this pressure to keep up, and actually they're one paycheck away from the stack of cards crumbling. And actually, sometimes the more we earn, the more painful this is. I saw an influencer on TikTok, and I never know anyone's names on TikTok. It's like really weird. It's not like Instagram, so you're not as loyal to the creator. So you know the creator, but she's a twin mum who lives out in Australia. She's Canadian, and like a really like super aesthetic content. So she's got an Australian husband, they've got twins, and they've documented their life raising twins, especially I think through pandemic, if I'm remembering correctly. But I digress, because that's not the point of this story. They live such an aesthetic life. They, I think, rent on the Gold Coast, and he works in Sydney and commutes by plane. Well, not like private plane, but like, because you can commute quite easily on planes in Australia that way. So he does internal flights backwards and forwards. And they had a nanny, an au pair. And she shared on TikTok this week that actually her husband lost his job in just before December. And that it had taken them a while as a family to process it. And so they hadn't shared immediately, completely understandable. And they're having to navigate this new like way of living. Their au pair has stopped, although has also gone traveling. So I'm not making an assumption there, but she has transparently shared that he was the breadwinner. She makes income and provides for the family, but not enough to pay for this beautiful rental on the Sunshine Coast. I think near Byron Bay even, and not enough even to pay like for rent anywhere. So they're actually going to be moving in with his mum, with her mother-in-law, whilst they navigate this like new situation where he has to find a new job and they have to kind of adjust their expenses. I tell this story because one of the things that she admitted was that they had got completely carried away with this aesthetic content creator lifestyle. So whilst all the things they were paying for were in proportion to their earnings, and she's not mentioned debt at all. Again, if she wanted to use debt, it's like her choice. She talked about like they just hadn't, like everyone was asking, do you not have an emergency savings? Like, how can you not have emergency savings? Da, da, da. And it's as if people presume that there's just a big pile of cash there waiting for everyone. And the reality is most people don't have that. They're living paycheck to paycheck. And, you know, some people are outspending that paycheck and some people aren't, but one job loss and the family have to completely regroup. All that to say, we don't know what's going on in anyone's lives. And whilst we can make assumptions about lifestyles that people live, actually, we just don't know what's going on under the hood. And so for you, focusing on your journey, looking at your net worth and trying to grow your net worth is a super, super good way of feeling financially well, no matter what it looks like on the outside. Talking about net worth is also not for rich old white men. I think that's the image that comes to mind when you might hear the word net worth. But no, this is for all of us. And I really want to normalize this language because when you're in the financial community, we do talk about it regularly. You know, we go into the community and I'll share our net worth growth every month with the community. And I love it when other people share them as well. I think these absolute wins, these jumps that you can make is absolutely amazing. So it's not just for people that, you know, lean heavily into financial language and have a lot of money. I think it's a real leveler amongst the community as well, because the graph without figures just moves in the right direction. So if I have a minus £10,000 net worth and I manage to pay off £500 in a month, and I then have minus 9,500 the month after, my graph's gone up. So I have made progress. And so I can feel like I've done well and that I'm moving in the right direction. And someone next to me could have $1 million net worth and they might increase it by £10,000 in a month. But relatively, we've still both had a nice graph going up in the same direction. We've both made good decisions with our money that has made that outcome happen. Right, so if net worth is assets minus liabilities, let's have a think about the assets and the assets that matter. Now, assets, as I said, are the things that you own, but let's not get carried away because in today's world, we own a lot. You know, we could talk about the phone I have here with me. We could talk about my drinks cup. We could talk about the remote control JCB that my toddler has in the corner. We could talk about the play area in my garden. Yes, our assets are things that we own, but for financial reasons, we keep that super narrow. So it's not just your stuff. We also took the decision in Financial to narrow it further, to not include other assets that maybe other people do, but in our opinion, there are certain classes of assets that we want you to focus on to grow. And they're the generic ones. And so this is not for specialist asset management. We're not talking here art. We're not talking jewelry. We're not talking handbags. And actually, we're also not talking cars. And there's a whole lot of debate that's not for this podcast about what should and shouldn't be included. It's ours, and we decided it because we decided that what was better for you guys was that you were not distracted by other asset classes. Great if you have all your other shit together and then you're like, I might go invest in Hermes over here or a vintage Jag over there. Good for you. Majority of us aren't doing that. So that's why we keep it quite narrow. So first up, we have cash. Cash is king or queen. It is great for stability, cash. It is a comfort blanket. You can use it immediately to buy food. I just think that is something in our human nature to know that you can buy provisions with cash easily. You could buy a night in a hotel if you needed to as an emergency. You could put petrol in your car. There is something so comforting around cash. And when I mean cash, I don't necessarily mean like physical cash, but cash as an asset is essentially money held in bank accounts and savings accounts, and maybe even, like I said, a piggy bank or physical jar if you want to count those. But cash is the most comforting asset that we can own. The limiter with cash is historically low interest rates. And so even though we've had a nice little boom in the past couple of years, holding money in cash, it doesn't grow. And so tiny little explainer here on the relatives of inflation and cash, but typically it has been hard to have cash growing in accounts at the same rate, if not more than inflation. It tends to be at growing at an interest rate that's lower. And so in its absolute simplest terms, what this means is over time, your cash will go a little bit backwards. It's really hard to picture if you don't understand this concept, but inflation's all around like the cost of goods and the rate at which they rise. And so when inflation's high, it means, but I'm going to use this explanation for if you don't really understand it, that your living costs are going up. And so let's say your shopping basket cost £100 today. Next year, it might cost £105. And if you had £100 in a bank account, but it only grew a little bit and you've now got 103, the problem is you can't buy that same basket. You only have 103, but it now costs 105. So what we need to try and do is help make our money grow at the same rate, at least that goods are going up, so inflation's going up, so that you just stay the same. Never mind, get ahead. So this is the downside of holding money in cash, obviously, but the other great reasons are accessible. You can use it to buy anything and look after yourself with it. So cash is our first asset. Our second asset class is investments. Now we're going to be super generic here because we're talking about everything's technically an investment. So what I'm meaning is investing in the market. And typically this will be in stocks and shares. So the majority of our pension portfolios will be made up of stocks and shares. In actual fact, they are also invested in lots of different things like bonds or sometimes cash and lots of kind of different assets. So for simplified reasons, we're going to think of these as stocks and shares. Now, investments are higher risk, but they have a higher growth potential. They're higher risk because they can go up and down, whereas kind of like I said with cash, cash is cash. It doesn't really go down. It can go backwards if it doesn't grow. But with investments, they can go up and down. But with that higher risk does come that higher reward. So I think historically the S&P has grown by something like 10% year on year. Some good years, some bad years, and it kind of evens it out. And so you can see that having assets that grow at more than the rate of inflation helps your actual like asset pile and net worth grow. The last asset class as part of our net worth calculation that we're going to talk about today is property. So that's going to be the home that we own, and also it could be rental properties as well. Now, I've caveated the hell out of this, right? But I have to, because there'll be so many people sat there going, well, that's not quite correct. And you've missed off this and you've missed off that. And this is the problem with the way that people talk about investments. It is alienating people. It's making it too complicated. And so we are coming in at a really, really simple, basic level, because if we can get the majority of our listeners understanding that basic level, we can go into further details on deep dives and we can get more sophisticated, and you can learn the world if you want to. But this podcast is meant to be leveling up the information so that everyone can have this base levels so that they can make good decisions for their financial well-being. So we'll come on to how you track it, but these are the assets that matter. And this is a really good time, right, to sit and think about the types of things you buy with your money. I mean, like, how much of your budget is going to clothes? How much is going to £10 cocktails? How much is going to really expensive Pilates classes that look like they hurt? Hats off to anyone who can do any of those moves. I am hopeless. Can't even touch my toes. What about the skincare? What about the holidays? All these things are important, and you know I spend money on these things, so this is said with love. But none of those things are assets. None of those things are growing your net worth, which is fine, but I think that really helps you take a look at your budget and have a look at this perspective of, where's my money going? And, coming back to the financial budget, that's why we want things in your excess going to things that grow in value. And if you don't have an excess, if you have enough income, you're weighting your spending towards things like consumption. I want it now, and not things that grow later. So just go have a look and go have a little think about how much of my money is going into cash, going into investments, and going into property. A big misconception about net worth tracking is that you have to have a big net worth to do it. That number, even if it's small, if it's moving in the right direction, it's so important to track. We're all on our own journeys. And that's a wonderful thing, actually, because lots in the community, like, people aren't necessarily sharing figures. They're just showing growth. That's a lovely thing, because as I said earlier, it's a leveler. And I've actually got a great comment from the community that talks about watching that number move in the right direction, no matter how slowly, gives you motivation and it gives you momentum. I am obsessed with financial. I'm obsessed with watching my debt go down and watching my net worth slowly change. I am still in so significant debt, but watching the numbers change has really helped. If you said that in the community, we're obsessed with you as well. Thank you. And thank you for sharing how you feel about seeing that number go up, even if it's slowly. As I said, I have got like 3 years of net worths. And when I look back over time, it's just so empowering, and you feel so proud of you if you're doing it on your own, you and your partner if you're doing it together. It's a wonderful thing. On that, actually, tracking with your partner, we get asked this question a lot, so I'll jump in and make a note that it's a wonderful thing to track together, but you don't have to combine your net worths. So if you have fully combined finances, fully combined everything, especially if you're married, why not track it together? Use one financial account and you add in everything. If you are tracking on your own, then you either have completely separate finances anyway, and so it's pretty easy to do. But if you co-own any assets, then have a little think about the proportion of assets that you own. So if it is 50-50, then apply those 50-50. So you can track your own net worth, you can track it as a couple, you can track it both. You could see how we're together, but how am I doing? It's a common question we get. So I wanted to jump into that. But actually, before I tell you exactly how to track your net worth, one of my big goals for 2025 for us at Financial was to share community stories, real people telling their real experiences, sharing their real emotions. And I think we started that a little bit with the vault last year, like your dilemmas come in thick and fast and we're able to share those. And I love it when you send us an email going, oh, that was me, that was mine, or you might have shared it in the community afterwards. So we're getting you in, but I just want your voice and your story, because I really feel like that can inspire someone else. It's great, that you can hear it from me, hear it from Holly, hear it from Lucy, and see quotes and stuff. But when you listen to a real person telling you how they changed their life, I just think it's the thing that you need to be spurred on. And so I wanted to start off this week with Hannah. She's achieved so much during her short time with Financial, and I know lots of you will love hearing about her journey so far. And actually, a quick point, and we didn't talk about this in the chat, but she had actually taken out Financial Premium and she cancelled, and Holly actually reached out to her and said, would you mind if we jump on a call? Like, we're trying to learn, like, what would be helpful, what wouldn't be. And we gave her an extra month's trial because she'd just not used the trial. She was like, I'm just not ready. I'm not in the right place. Like, I've got all this stuff going on. I'm getting married. And oh my God, did she dive in? She used that month. I think she just blew us away with what she achieved. And she said, "Thank you so much for contacting me. I'm so glad that I did do it." So I'm going to take this opportunity. If you have used your trial and you didn't use it properly and you want another go, come to our inbox, hello@financial.com. I'm here for it. I will give you another month. I want you to have a go and do just what Hannah did, because it's really inspirational. So let's have a little listen to my chat this week with Hannah. Hannah, thank you so much for joining us for our very first guest on The Vault Unlocked.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited because The Vault was the #1 on my Spotify Wrapped last year. So to be a guest on The Vault is just brilliant. I'm really looking forward to it.
You were, honestly, there's so many of you, but you were the obvious choice for our first one. So we're really super happy to have you as the first one. So obviously we know each other quite well, never met in person, feel like I know you inside and out. And actually had never met on camera until we caught up yesterday. But for those that don't know you, can you just share a little bit about you and about what life was like before kind of you joined Financial?
Yeah, of course. So, hello, my name's Hannah, basically, and I'm a massive extrovert, which is a blessing, but also a bit of a curse when it came to my finances before, because what it meant was like I just wanted to say yes to absolutely everything, whether it was going out, buying something, a different event that was going on that maybe I wasn't even that keen on going to, but because I wanted to hang out with people and do stuff, I'd end up going anyway. And this was sort of multiple times a week, every single week. And I still like to do that now. It's just the difference is now that I'm not going into debt to pay for those things instead, because my salary was never going to cover that sort of lifestyle that I was upkeeping. We're talking like multiple concerts, festivals, holidays. Whenever anybody said, "Oh, do you want to do this?" the answer was always yes. So that's kind of what my life was like a little bit before Financial. It still is where I'm able to go out and see everybody, but as I said, just without the consequences afterwards.
Well, and how long? So you said your salary wasn't enough to cover the things that you wanted to do. How long had life been like that? How long had you kind of been, probably using credit to kind of fund lifestyle?
Yeah, so I actually got a credit card when I was 18, which seems to be the story for most people. And my parents, bless them, they did a really good job of kind of saying that we're not going to bail you out if you kind of want to pay for new clothes or holiday or anything. You have to pay for it yourself, which would have been great in their day when they weren't just handing out credit cards to 18-year-olds willy-nilly. So I wasn't saving up to be able to afford these things. I was just popping them on the card, no problem. And it was just something where I'd pay a little bit off the card, and then rather than seeing it as debt at all, because I just didn't see myself as in debt, which is crazy now looking back. But whenever I paid off a little bit off my card, I'd see that as almost like a pay rise for the month or a bonus. So say I paid 200 off, I'd think, oh, I've got my salary and an extra 200 to spend. And it's crazy, isn't it? Because you look back and you think, but you paid off the 200 with your salary. What are you thinking? But that was my mindset at the time. And even though I didn't kind of buy anything huge like a car on credit or anything like that, it was just constant top ups, 24, pretty much 24/7. And it was only when I sat down after I cleared my debt about a month ago that I realised that I'd actually racked up about 11 grand's worth of debt and just kept paying it off incrementally, but then putting it straight back on again because I saw it as a pay rise rather than putting a hole in the debt, which is mad.
So what changed? Why you've done this for so long? What made you finally go like, that's it now, I want to actually get rid of this debt?
Yeah. So the irony is, I mean, a lot of the things I was spending money on were things like money mindset courses, like this course is going to change your life. So I actually saw myself as quite a financially savvy person. And I would listen to episodes of The Vault and hear about people in debt and think, oh, that's not great. Actually, that's a little bit similar to me. But it's fine because I'm going to just manifest all this money in or do this course and I'm just going to be able to pay it back. And that's when I'd start to take a little bit more notice. But then there was an episode, and I think it was one of the earlier ones, where Holly said, no one's coming to pay this debt off. That's, who's going to come to rescue you? And I remember being in the gym and I just kind of had this moment. I remember being on one of the weights machines and just kind of stopping and having to sit there for a minute thinking, shit, what have I done? And it all just came crashing down. But I'm grateful that it happened because obviously, it set the trajectory and I'm in a much, much better financial position now than I have ever been.
I could just picture you like on the machine going, "Oh shit, I have to pay this off."
Yeah, honestly,
Like,
people around me must have thought I was having some sort of existential crisis in the middle of the gym. And in a way, I was, I guess.
yeah, you definitely were. So then during your when you started financial, then you went in. You really did commit. Do you want to share a little bit about that bit then when you were like, right, I've come home from
Yeah.
the gym, saying to your partner, we've got a plan. Like I'm going to be going crazy. Like what was next?
Yeah, well, I think that was the thing for him because because I was in this mindset of, I'm not a person in debt. He actually hadn't realized that I had all these credit cards and, Klarna and things like that. Not because I was hiding it from him, but because I think the right word is, you know, it's a bit of a trend at the moment to be Delulu. I was too
Yeah.
delusional, way too delusional. And it wasn't that I was hiding it from him, it's just that I didn't identify as someone in debt until that point. So, as I mentioned earlier, I'm just a massive extrovert and I hate FOMO. I love to always be there, enjoy myself, and say yes to everything. So I decided that I wanted to get things done as quickly as possible, reduce the debt down ASAP, and just went all in basically. Anything that was in my way was at risk of being sold, sofa and all, absolutely everything. So obviously each journey is unique to the person, but I just knew that I wanted to be able to say yes to everything as soon as possible. So I sold a load of my stuff. I went into the survive mode. So was very, very particular about what I was saying yes to. And one of my best friends, I remember her saying to me, like, are you struggling because you're not coming out and doing stuff as much? And I said to her, I was like, I'm actually in the best financial position of my life. It's just a very temporary moment. But yeah, so basically just going very all in for those 6 months meant that I could clear my debt super quick. And now I'm back to being able to say yes to things. In that time as well, I had sinking funds. So we've got holidays now that we can go on that I don't have to start saving from now. And I think as well, like being able to have those sinking funds, we haven't gone completely without during that time in the survive mode. We've still been
Yeah.
able to do stuff. It's just been a little bit less than what I'd normally be doing.
Because actually, a lot of extroverts will be sat here wanting to start the journey you've gone on, but will have been the same predicament, which is, but I love being out and about, and I love being with people, and I feel like you're complete evidence that even if you can go hard, as long as you plan, you can still do things.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes me laugh because on the podcast, obviously, it seems that Lucy loves to stay in, be
Yeah,
cozy, and you guys are like, oh, well, love that. That sounds great. And I'm thinking, God, like, I want to be out all the time. But it just shows you that you really can, like, the method works for whether you want to go out all the time, whether want to stay in all the time. It just works and it's really flexible.
yeah, no, it definitely is, and we're all different. I always say on the pod, like I'm grateful for my social circle of friends because they drag me out, and then I absolutely love it. I'm just like there's this. I think TikTok told me I'm an extrovert introvert or introvert extrovert, whichever way
Yeah.
around. So it is for everyone. Now I remember I think it was over Christmas, suddenly you said, like, fuck it, I'm using my savings, and you cleared your debt. Like that, a lot of people, we get so many DMs. In fact, we get that many
Yeah.
dilemmas where we double up and we don't always answer them because we've answered them before. But so many people say, should I use savings to pay off debt? So what do you think to that question?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think again, it varies on the person because I actually use my house deposit savings to pay off the debt. And I know a lot of people think, what, are you crazy? Like the prices of houses are just going up and up and up. But I kind of had a bit of a sit down with myself and realized that actually, even though I do want to own a home eventually, it's not something I want to do right now. My husband and I were really looking forward to doing a bit of traveling and living a bit of an almost nomadic lifestyle in different countries. So having a house as well just wasn't congruent to that right now. So I just thought this money's just sat in an account. I was doing my 2025 goals, and my main goal was to become debt free in 2025, even though I was close. But it would still be my main goal. And I just thought to myself, I can just do that now. Like, I can just take the money out of the lifetime ISA and just do it now, pay it off, and then go into 2025 having already achieved the biggest goal. And yeah, and that was it. And so I did that. The money came through. It takes a few days for it to come through from the provider, and I paid it off. And I know that you guys always say, "Oh, I wish someone would film paying off the debt," because
Yeah.
after you press the button, you just sat there thinking, "Oh my god, that's it. That's crazy." And even now, kind of a couple of months down the line now, I always think, oh, is there one that I've forgotten every single payday? And it's just so nice to kind of go through my account and think, no, I literally owe nobody else anything at all. And my whole paycheck's mine to do what I want with, which is great.
And a big thing you did this year was you moved jobs, didn't you? And not for a pay rise. Lots of people kind of move for a pay rise, but you felt able to do that.
Yeah, exactly. So I was in a position a little bit earlier this year where I just was not happy at work, and being able to actually budget meant that I could take a slight pay dip for a job that makes me much happier in my work. So that was such an unexpected such an unexpected positive point to budgeting and using the financial method. You'd never think that you'd be going into a situation where technically you're bringing in less money, but because the debt was being taken care of, I was still about £500 a month better off than when I was in a higher paying role. And I just think there's so much more to, getting a grip on your finances and your debt than just kind of having more money and making more money, because you can make those choices, those really holistic choices, to do with like quality of life and your lifestyle, that seems strange to people to take a pay cut, but we were able to do it because everything was in order.
No, it's amazing, and it is the goal. And I think people, you just feel different, and you walk
Yeah.
different, and you act more different. I said, like, you checking your bank accounts, and there's no debt. It's so freeing, and so I mean, you had such a year. You got married, you got these different plans in place. You paid off all your debt. You are in a better job where you feel better. What is next for you and for your husband? What on earth are you going to do using the
Oh my
financial method
gosh.
next?
I know, yeah. We get bored so easily, clearly. Like we're moving house, getting new jobs, getting married all within the space of a year. So we just get bored really easily. So I think for us, as I said, we really want to do a little bit of traveling. So towards the end of the year, we are going to be doing the digital nomad thing. We've already got our float ready to go for kind of like doing Airbnbs and just basically see where the world takes us. And it's so nice to be able to do that without thinking in the back of my head, oh, but if the money stops coming in, I've got to get myself home and pay things off, because it's all taken care of. It's just to make sure that we're safe and we can get back if we want to. But also, I'm really enjoying learning about investing at the moment. So I'm reading Girls That Invest by Simran Kaur.
Yeah.
Amazing. I love the book. I love the podcast. I love her. She's great. So yeah, so looking forward to making my money grow as well in the future too. And it's so good to be able to do that and then also do the fun stuff at the same time too. It's, financial wellness doesn't mean that you have to miss out on other things.
No, definitely not. And I think that the exciting thing about where you're at, and this is the point of the excess. The bigger the excess is, the bigger the choice to do jobs or live in countries or housing situations that you enjoy.
Mhm.
And you like said, for Girls That Invest, like we help people create excess cash so that they can do that, and do that in a
Yeah,
balanced way where they're doing that and kind of automating it, and it building up a portfolio, but also you've got your fund sinking funds, you've got your travel sinking funds, so
yeah,
that it's like it's like, I feel like it's like doing a jigsaw, and you get your corner pieces sorted first, and then you
uh-huh.
can kind of build color to what you want to do, and that's what you're going to be able to do. And I definitely feel like we need a January 2026 check in with you to be like, okay, what did you do, what have you done? Because knowing you will like have smashed it and sprinted through the next 7 goals as well. So would you come back and share that with us?
Absolutely. I would love to come back. And yeah, just love to come back. I'll keep listening to The Vault in the meantime and just excited to put more things into practice, really.
Well, listen, like I said, I knew you'd be a great first guest to share your story, because people will be inspired by what you're doing, whether it's like, I finally want to pay off that debt, or I can do it and I can still have fun and have a life, or whether it's like, I hate my job too and I am being inspired and I'm going to write that like letter of resignation, whatever it is. I think hearing from other people really helps, and you were the perfect person to share it. So Hannah, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I'll see you next time I'm invited on.
Oh my God, wasn't that amazing? I'm smiling so much. I'm beaming. My cheeks are hurting. We've got a lot of community members that we're going to be hearing from every week. And obviously, if you think that you've got something that you want to share and you want to jump on a call, like I would love to do a FaceTime call with you. For those of you that aren't watching on YouTube, it was like a FaceTime call that we recorded. So it's dead chill, it's super, super chill and really intimate and normal. So if you want to jump on a call with me, I would love to hear about your journey as well. Feel free again to email thevault@financial.com and message us, and we'll see about having a little chat. Okay. Back on net worth, we had our theory early on. We had a little chat with Hannah, and now we are going to dive into how to track your net worth. So, firstly, and remember, there is an area in the app where you can track your net worth. It is a premium feature. So again, if you want to trial that, then and you've used your trial, like I said, come to us. But you can do this in a spreadsheet and a piece of paper. Like you don't need to use the app if you wanted to do it on your own little journal or whatever. Do it. We're first off going to identify the assets that fit like the financial method tracker. You have to list out all the things that you have in these asset classes. We've talked about them, things like cash, investments, property. I'm going to walk through some examples of assets that we use to kind of help bring it to life for you. So firstly, let's think about cash. We track our emergency fund in there. So wherever our emergency funds are. And again, we do split those across different platforms to optimize the returns that we're getting. At the moment, I'm using Trading 212, and so is my husband. We've just had a Starling fix that's come to an end. A few things hanging around. So we're due an audit of all those to make sure that we're maximizing our returns. And so we will list multiple little accounts. So it'll say like Laura, Starling, Carl, Trading 212. So cash, anywhere you hold cash. Now, we don't include sinking funds in tracking net worth. I think it's optional if you want to, but it's spending money in my head, even though it's money that you could get access to if you needed it. It's got a job, it's already planned. So it's like I wouldn't want it as part of my net worth, because my net worth is what's ring fenced for just assets that kind of grow, and that's to be spent. So even though I want it to be making money, and I talked about that on the Vault on Thursday actually, that came out about not being happy about my pots and the money they're making, I don't include that. I also don't include any money in the current account, but again, that's because it's part of the budget. It's to be spent. We also don't include junior ISAs. So we have 3 junior ISAs for our children, but they're not ours, they're in their name. Then it comes on to things like investments. So we would put our pension cash value in there. You might have multiple pensions for multiple jobs. We've consolidated some of those. We've got some of those in one account, and then we've got our work pensions, and then we've got our stocks and shares ISAs. So all those would be listed under investments. And then lastly, there's property. So we own 2 properties. We own our home and we own a rental property. And so what you do is you take the market value of those properties. Ignore mortgage for a minute. We'll talk about that. But you pick a typical market value. Now, this is just an arbitrary figure. There's no point in making it over the top, because you're just lying to yourself. Like, it's not going anywhere else. It's just staying within you and your calculations. So picking an appropriate value for your property that's not under egging it and not over egging it, but kind of okay. And what I tend to do is keep that for the full year, and once a year we'll revisit it and look at whether prices have gone up or prices have gone down, and adjust it accordingly. But typically we'll take one value and use it for the year. So we'll list all those out, and it's probably worth a little reflection about how you feel about those assets. Like, do you wish you had more? I mean, that's an obvious question, but or actually you're realizing you've more assets than you thought. So many people don't think about their pensions, obviously, because you can't get access to them so early. And they don't think about different savings accounts that might be dotted around. And suddenly when you add them all up, especially if you're doing it combined with a partner, actually you might be doing pretty well, and you should be quite proud of yourself. Next, we're going to jump into listing our liabilities, which is the long fancy word for your debts. This could be credit cards, loans, car finance, buy now, pay later, overdraft, loans to family and friends. Get all those listed. Again, you can do this in the tracker in the app, but you might have them listed on the debt tracker. That might be a good reference point for you to start, but list out all your debts. Now, this includes your mortgage. So if you have properties, this is where you list the outstanding mortgage amount. Remember, you do the full value of the home on the assets, and then you have the full value of the debt on the homes or the properties on your liabilities. You then take both those numbers and you subtract the liabilities or the debt number from the asset number. This will give you your net worth. Now, warning, this might be a negative, and do not be worried if it's a negative. It is a starting point. So many people start off, especially if they're younger, with a negative net worth. What does this mean? It means you owe more than you own. And that's okay, because we're on a journey and we're going to be building up savings, and we're going to be paying off debt, and we're going to be buying homes, and we're going to be investing. So don't be worried if it's a negative. So many people start off with this number negative, and the first goal is exciting. It's to get to zero. It's to get to like break even, where you don't owe more than you owe. And so now you have your net worth. You can track this, pick the same day, typically every month. I like to pick around the third, fourth of the month, the third if I can remember, it's in the diary. And what this means is things like our mortgage has been paid and investments money have been transferred. And since payday was like the week before, it's had a week to settle. And it is quite important to keep the same time every month if it's not the end of the world if you don't. But if it's this, you want to see consistent growth. And so you want to know that you're measuring the same things, that the same payments have been made and debt's been paid off a similar time. So try and pick the day that's right for you. Like I said, I like about the third or fourth of the month. And that, my friends, is it. It's not absolute rocket science. It might be hard the first time you do it, but this is tracking your net worth. And one in the app especially, and to be fair, even on paper and everything else, once you've done it once, you just copy it and update it and tweak it. And so some things stay the same. So things like the property value might stay the same, but it really doesn't take that long, especially if you can kind of get the app up on your phone and you can log into your online banking or do it from your phone and you just switch from app to app. My husband and I, honestly, we could do our net worth in about 4 minutes. He does all the logging into all the different accounts on his in his name, and I shout for them. I say, right, what about this one? What about this one? And we just nudge it, and then I will do mine on my phone, which again, you just switch from app to app, and you get that amount and you update it. And then you just click save, and then suddenly you've got a new, line on your graph that you can look at. And a couple of things I've found useful about tracking my net worth is, one, when I felt financial poor, which is when you have moved your money to savings and moved your money to your pensions and moved your money to your sinking funds and your pots, and when you've overpaid your debt and you feel like you've not got a lot of money, because that's financial poor. This is a real thing. The net worth tracker can really bring you joy, because what you realize is, I actually have shit. I have stuff. I have assets. I am moving in the right direction. So even if all this over here in my current form, in my current account, in my bank, even if I feel stressed, if I still see my debt quite high, I look at my net worth tracker and I am making progress. And I promise you, it is one of the best feelings to feel financial poor but net worth happy. So that's one thing. The second thing is, and I guess I'm speaking from a position of, 15 years on a money journey, been doing financial for a decade. There are times when our net worth has jumped like 5 figures in a month. And I'm not saying that to flex. I'm not saying that to show off, because sometimes it's gone down by the same. But what starts to happen is this growth compounds, and we'll talk about investing next week, but especially with investments and, to be fair, with property increases as well. So that will happen if you kind of reassess the value of your home once a year. And we've got a rental property as well, so we're benefiting from 2 capital jumps. Sometimes it can jump so much and you kind of have to double check it, and you have to double check the investments. If the stock market's had a really good month and whatever it is, you just look and you go, wow, you could have had a bonus from work. You could, whatever it is, there'll be some months where it might take your breath away. And that's really important to get those ones. There's other ones where it goes down. But I think because you always get the ups, the downs, you go, okay. But even like we had a really busy December where we'd it was my husband's 40th. And so there was a present and there was a party. And so, savings were depleted for some of that, and we had really big stuff like my car needed quite a bit of work, and so we had to do that as well. And I think there was something else, but basically life hit us, okay, and we were fine because we planned for it. And I did our net worth in January, and I was expecting it to go down. It didn't. It went up, even though we had depleted savings for these different things. It went up. It didn't go up by a lot, but that is what happens, because whilst we were paying for we needed to go into emergency fund for my car. There wasn't enough in the car fund because we just had the service and the MOT. But we had to go into the emergency fund for that. We did go into our non-emergency but cash savings for birthday because we didn't know what we were going to do and stuff. And so we didn't sinking fund enough for that. What had happened was we'd obviously still paid down our mortgage. We had interest on savings grow. We had investments go up and we had investment contributions. So all this stuff that's happening in the background, you then like do the figures, you do the calculation and you still see it go up. That is the outcome of these like little inputs, these little habits, these automations, these moving your savings, these creating an excess. It all builds momentum. And that was the outcome. Ultimately, this is about progress, not perfection. And the mere tracking of it is going to really help you connect with that long-term vision of our money, like I said, rather than just staying in the here and now and not really feeling like you're financially well for the future. You can actually sometimes go backwards as well, depending on the accounts that you have access to, that you might be able to pinpoint months previously and build up a picture of how it's been going if you haven't been tracking it. Ultimately, your net worth is a reflection of your financial well-being, and the bigger it is, especially relative to the expenses you have and the lifestyle you have, the better you're going to feel. And remember, this is all about how you feel. So hopefully we have helped to normalize the concept of a net worth, that it's not just for white old rich men, it's for all of us. And I want you to build your wealth and I want you to grow. And as I said at the beginning, the point is to get you to grow. It's not to hang around and survive and build forever. And so you have to start pushing yourself out your comfort zone and talking about these things. And I want you to have more wealth. I especially want women to have more wealth. And the way we do that is we grow our net worth through growing assets. Okay, that's it for this week's The Vault Unlocked. If you have any topics that you would love us to look at covering, then please email thevault@financial.com. And just a disclaimer, this is a light-hearted chat around life and money. We are not giving financial advice. Bye-bye.